be burping throughout this.
And so burping is okay.
Burping is okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'm fine with it then.
Oh, you can burp as much as you want. What? Do you wear glasses?
I do.
Do you have contacts in?
I do.
Why? Well, I don't know. I was cleaning my glasses and I don't think I'd ever seen you in glasses. Except, so when you cosplay as Tony Stark, do you wear your real glasses or the prescription?
No, I have fake glasses with contacts on them.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no, in fact, my glasses are kind of like bent and broken from like laying on them so much.
Oh, okay,
that
sure.
I have to wear contacts.
Uh-huh.
I actually only just recently got a new pair of glasses, and I've been wearing them lately.
So, fun fact about my old glasses is so the last time I had glasses before these was before I moved to North Carolina, and it was before even, well, it doesn't matter. I sat on them, and I broke them. And do you remember Miranda? She worked at like the front desk.
Yeah.
Okay. She super glued them together for me one day, and I broke them about a week later.
I expect nothing less.
And I just went without them, and I've gotten like 2 new licenses since. But every time they make you pass the driver's eyesight inspection test.
Oh, yeah.
And I passed every time. And so I was just driving without my glasses because I passed the eye inspection, and my eyes are good enough to drive legally without glasses. And so I just didn't wear them for about 2 or 3 years. And my dad was always like, dude, you gotta get glasses, like you're not being safe, like and then so when Tay was pregnant, I was like, okay, before this kid comes out, I am going to get some new glasses because I think it's irresponsible of me if I am driving with bad eyes with the baby on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it's a good thing that we live on opposite sides of the city then, so I don't have to worry about running into you.
Right. Well, so the other day I drive manual and my foot slipped off the clutch and I hit a yellow pole at a gas station, like those cement yellow things. I swear I'm a good driver, but
you're not helping your kids.
I know, I'm not helping my kids. Well, my glasses were on. Like, that was just literally me slipping off the clutch, and some lady walked right out the gas station, like, saw me. And now it's even more awkward because every time I park somewhere and someone is walking to their car next to mine, they always see, like, the yellow scrapes on mine, and then they, like, panic and check their car, which, hey, fair enough, I would do the same thing, but
sure.
But it's really awkward.
I mean, horror is your life too, I'm afraid.
Right.
Yeah, you manifest the awkwardness yourself there, friend.
Yeah, well, I think as far as awkwardness goes, I do a pretty good job of just wearing it on my sleeve,
That's true. Very few people I know can own up to it, and you are one of the few.
I appreciate that. Well, Tony, let's go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, man, and kind of talk about what it is that you do. Just brief summary, and then I'll ask you some questions. But who are you, and what do you do, buddy?
My name is Anthony Dain. Most people call me Tony, or at least the close people at least call me Tony.
Oh, close.
I am a full-time filmmaker. I'm an actor. I'm a cosplayer. I'm a writer. I'm a director. I also work at Human Talent Columbus as the new talent coordinator. So I deal with new and existing talent when they have questions, comments, concerns, filming, that sort of deal.
Nice.
Busy guy.
Busy guy. And so we talked about this over the summer, but I wanted to ask because I kind of forgot, and I also think it's interesting. So you work for the talent agency.
Yep.
How do you balance that with also getting yourself gigs as an actor, writer, director?
Well, fortunately enough, they're actually really, really cool about me booking gigs, specifically with the agency itself. Obviously, they don't care, but if it's like outside the agency, they're at least still really cool with it. So, unfortunately, it is kind of a desk job, Monday through Friday. So I could do my auditions in the office if I really want to, or I do them on my own time.
Okay.
But I still kind of, seek my own opportunities and do my own projects on weekends or outside of that. But like, I was just in Kentucky for 14 days shooting a film, So I was working remote on the days that I wasn't filming with, having my laptop on set.
So what are those responsibilities like when you're...
Mostly like Zoom meetings, when there's like people who need to have an interview or do a monologue or generally answering emails. The boring side of the world that I can do kind of remotely.
So do you, when you're wearing that hat, what are you like determining? So if someone's sending you a monologue, are you judging their audition kind of?
In a way, yes. Yeah, but I'm also not the one who's making the final decision. I'm bringing a new talent into the agency as well.
Okay.
I'm going to be the person that's in between the talent and the agent.
Okay.
The agent's so busy working with clients and working with existing talent that they're not going to be able to see the mass amount of people who are, constantly trying to do something more or sending in monologues and doing these like new hire type things. So I'm the one who will handle that. So I'll screen them first, I'll meet with them, I'll have a one-on-one, I'll have a conversation, see where their personality is at, see where their, experience level, skill level's at, and then we'll do our monologue, they'll do a performance for me. You'll judge it accordingly. I mean, that's the whole point of the deal. And then if it's like good enough sort of deal, we pass it on through to the agent, they then review it, and they make the final decision on bringing them in.
Okay. And so the agent decides whether to bring them in.
Yes.
And then the agent's job is to then find gigs for them?
Yeah, so the agent will work direct with the client. Basically, we're in the business of a client who needs to find talent for their projects, they reach out to us. And then the agent will then curate a list of talent based off of the specs that the client is asking for, and then they send the opportunities out for those actors to submit to. So I'm kind of on both sides of this coin now. Like I'm a talent, I'm an actor, so I get auditions, but I also see the auditions that go out and watch people submit to those as well. So I'm on both sides of this coin, which is kind of neat.
And do you enjoy being on both sides?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. What do you like about being on the non-acting side compared to acting? Because obviously there's pros and cons for both. So what do you like about not being an actor?
Being on the agency side of the world? I like seeing, that was the reason I took the job in the first place, is I wanted to know a little bit more about the financial and professional side of how the industry works behind the scenes, which not a lot of people can do. So I'm very fortunate in being able to see that side of the world. But what I like about it is being able to actually be a part of that and see everything that happens behind the scenes. Like when you're watching a movie, or like a movie that you really, really love, and at least back in the day on DVDs, they would have the behind the scenes.
That was why I got DVDs personally. Yeah,
that was the reason you get it.
For sure.
Special features. So when you watch those movies and you watch those behind the scenes on how the movie is filmed, it's something that you can kind of take for granted when you watch these things. So being on that side of the whole hiring talent, seeking talent, getting auditions, that is kind of a special thing. I like being part of that for sure.
So what was eye-opening about doing
that? What was eye-opening was that it's something that most talent, I think, take for granted when they submit to any audition, at least without knowing anything on the backside of things. Just a standard talent who will get an audition, they sit in a room with a bunch of other talent that look very similar to them. They're all going up for the same part. They're all reading the same lines. They go into the casting room. They stand in front of either the casting director or producers, and they do their part, and then they leave, and then they try to wash it away. And always in the back of their mind, they go, I should have done something different, or like, I bet that other guy who was wearing the cowboy hat's going to get it, not me. They're always so self-conscious about it, and it's always about me, regardless as a talent.
Sure, right, fair enough.
Right, so what was eye-opening was that it doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. It was like this huge weight was lifted off of me as a talent myself who does submissions to auditions, is that every single casting director and producers who's watching all of these like self-tapes or people who are sitting in front of the casting director doing the auditions, they want every single one of those people to succeed because
they're looking for the best talent.
Yeah, and they want the search to end too. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I've been on that side of the camera as well on my own projects, because I have my own production company, and I do my own films, my own shorts, and that jazz. So it's like when you're doing castings yourselves, you don't want to do this process. You don't. You want the perfect people to be there, and you don't want to sift through hundreds of auditions. You want it to be done. So seeing on the agency side of the world all of these people who are like submitting these auditions, like every single one of them is fantastic. It's great. Like there's so many good auditions.
Good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. By the end of the day, it's the client who makes the decision on who's getting the position. Who's the talent. So it took this huge weight off of me to not have to care anymore.
Sure.
It's not about me. It's about the client. So seeing that from a logistical standpoint was really eye-opening.
So did that change your audition process?
It did.
Yeah. From what to what?
It just removed the anxiety entirely. Yeah. So now it's like I'll do an audition and I'll watch it back, and I'll look at it from a casting standpoint rather than from the talent standpoint. I'll be like, yeah, I can sell that.
Okay. Cool.
That's pretty much where it ends, and it's a numbers game too. So like, you're obviously not guaranteed to get anything that you submit to, but if you submit to like 10 auditions, the odds of you booking one of them is going to be much higher than had you just submitted to one or two.
Okay.
So it's you kind of get out of your own head and you just kind of do it. You don't have any control over it once you've done it. You just give your best performance and move on.
Sure. So something I was thinking about. When I do these, I typically don't like to do too much prep because I just kind of like to be spontaneous.
I like spontaneity.
Yes, but I was thinking, so you do commercials, shorts, TV shows, movies. From the acting perspective, is there different prep? Well, because I was thinking for your flu role, for example.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk? Let's clarify that. What was your flu role? Because that was pretty big.
That was pretty big. It actually ran for about 3 years too. Ohio Governor Dain.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he was the client for that one. So it was an entire statewide project, and it was right out of COVID, and it was a campaign to get your flu shots.
Yes. And
they basically personalized the flu as a human,
right?
Which I played, and it was me trying to infect everyone around me. And basically, there was this big muscular guy who was wearing a black shirt that said bodyguard or something like that on it, who was like saving all of the people that I was after. And it was a really big campaign. It ran for about 3 years, and it was very good to me.
Right. So,
yeah.
How do you prep for that versus like a character? Because obviously, I'm a non-actor. Did some plays in school, but
not too well.
Yeah, just saying.
Yeah.
But so in your head, when you're approaching something like playing the flu, obviously you're human. Are you trying to be like, okay, am I trying to be funny? What's the are you talking to the director? How do you figure that role out versus you're playing a character in a movie or a TV show.
Right.
Here's their backstory. Here's how they think about the world.
Okay, so first of all, the audition for the flu when I got it was something entirely different than what the actual commercial was in general.
Oh, okay.
And I did not really take into consideration it would be what it became.
Sure.
So when I got the audition for it, I didn't know anything about it. They gave me these sides, which are just small lines that you would say to kind of help flesh out what they're trying to look at. And the sides, I believe, were you're in a grocery store and you've got a bag of chips and you're just obnoxiously eating them. That was the audition. So I got a bag of chips. I sat in front of my camera and I just obnoxiously loudmouth ate these bag of chips, and I was like this sleazy car salesman when I did it, and I thought nothing of it until I booked it. And then when I went to go do the actual thing, it was great because the director sat down with me, and then they also had an acting coach on set for it, mostly to just kind of because it was such a big campaign, it made a lot. It was for the entire state. There was a lot at stake for this, high pressure.
For sure.
So they wanted to make sure that they had all of their bases covered. So they sat down with me. They kind of gave me the scope of what they were looking to do here. And at the end of the day, in summation, it was just be like a Jim Carrey kind of deal. And that was easy to channel. So that was what I delivered for the commercial. So there wasn't any prep to it.
Okay.
It was more so just this is what we want to do, and this is kind of what we want to give off. Can you do that?
Just like a conversation.
Yeah. There wasn't
just a vibe. Can you express this?
Yeah, and that's usually the copy paste for most commercial work.
Okay.
Because commercials are so quick, in and out, 30 seconds. You got to develop something in a short amount of time. There really isn't anything that goes into backstories. Whereas when you're doing television or film, it's all backstory because the character has to be real the moment that you start. That's different.
Sure. So, are you allowed to talk about like the name of the movie you did in Kentucky and stuff?
Yeah, I can talk about it.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So what's it called?
The movie is called The Boy from Below.
Yes.
Tori Jones is the writer-director of that with Jonestown Films. It actually has quite a few big names in it, too. Wallace is in there. You're familiar with
name only.
Okay, that's fair. Kind of the reason behind all the Halloween movies.
Cool.
What
do you mean reason?
Dee Wallace. She's usually the best known as the mother in a lot of like 80s, 90s horror films. You should know who Dee Wallace is. Look her up. The Richie Ramone was in it as well from the Ramones. I think he was
badass.
Yeah. Bowsy. Sorry. She's known for the Terrifier films. If you've ever seen Terrifier 2,
no.
The Clown Cafe. She was the
sweet
actress in that too. Yeah. It's a slasher. It's kind of a LGBT slasher in a way. Mostly about a love story between two characters named Quinn and Max. And it's like a small group of friends that I happen to be a part of. And it's like Max, who was played by Leah, has been gone for quite some time. And we, as a friend group, noticed that our friend is kind of down and out. So we, without telling her, of course, we invite Max to come back and surprise her. This is all set in the 90s, by the way. It kind of blows up in everybody's face because there's some like tension between the two characters, and then we iron everything out. We realize that they still have feelings for each other, and the story kind of becomes those guys coming together. At least in the friend group of the world. On the horror side of it and the slasher side of it, it comes down to there was a very famous B-movie actress named Marilyn Miller who I believe she killed herself on one of her film sets and became like this legend across this small little town to where her son ended up being like picked up by their uncle and aunts living in their kind of family. Anyways, he kind of loses his mind and murders everybody, and this whole legend of the boy from below was born. So basically, he comes back as an adult and starts terrorizing the town, including our little group of people.
Nice.
That's the synopsis of it.
Very cool. So, was this the one? Because I probably on Instagram. You had a very heartfelt post thanking. Is this the project that you just finished?
That was the project that I just finished. Yes.
So it was a pretty impactful shoot, despite it being relatively short.
So it was a 14-day shoot for us, which is for I think it was a $100,000 budget on this film, so it was a relatively smaller budget. But that's usually around the time it takes to make these things if you're going from beginning to end.
Sure.
A couple of weeks, generally. It's just there were 7 of us.
Okay.
There were 7 of us that all came from all over the place. You know, like one of the actresses came from Hawaii, one was from LA, one was from Vegas. A few of us were local here to Ohio, but it was like we all ended up staying in the same cast house for 2 weeks during this production, and we were all on the same vibration where we all just kind of clicked and became like best friends day one. And like we still have post-production blues. Like we're still in a group chat and we still communicate every day.
That's so cool.
We all miss each other terribly because of those bonds that were created through this film process, and that was why I posted what I posted about that heartfelt. That was about each person that I had worked with.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I read the whole thing and I was like, wow, this must have been quite the shoot.
It was. In fact, I've been on quite a few features and quite a few films and projects where the project is over and there's always the post-production blues. This one specifically, never have I ever experienced this kind of a feeling before, where it feels like you're going through a grieving process because it ended so abruptly and everybody dispersed. And I think actually one person in our group chat even mentioned today, like we feel as though we were a litter of puppies that all just got, picked up.
Sure, shipped off to different owners. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like.
Wow.
It never have I felt that before on any other project. I mean, you do still have a connection with people, but like because it was 7 people, like getting together like this and meshing so well, it's like an anomaly.
Yeah, what are the odds?
What are
that
the
there's
odds?
not like one dick?
Right. No, nobody was an asshole. It was fantastic, and yeah, we just. In fact, what's really funny is like I said, the film that we shot was like set in the 90s, right?
Cool.
Okay, so I don't think I've shared this with you, but I will absolutely share this with you. So we had one day off. It was a Saturday, right? In between the 2 weeks.
Okay.
We all got the day off on a Saturday, and we sat there. We said, you know what we should do? We had a Blackmagic 4K or 6K pocket camera just chilling in our basement. And one of our members brought with them. We're like, you know what? We're all filmmakers. We all do this for a living. Let's shoot something fun on our day off. And we did, right? What we did is we put together a little intro, just like like Full House or like Family Ties.
Oh yeah.
Like sitcom opening of just us in our house. And it turned out beautifully.
Oh my god.
So I'll send you that. But yeah, we shot that on our day off, and then we did the edit when we got back, and it turned out amazing. It's so funny.
You gotta send that to me. Oh my gosh.
It's each one of us, all 7 of us in the house, just kind of doing the whole like. With our names pop up.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute. So, kind of going back to prep, how did you prep for this character, and how long was it? Like the same amount of prep you do? What is that process more like for?
So the prep process changes a couple of times, and it's usually based off of how big the role happens to be. So, for example, I'm prepping right now for a project that I'm going to be filming in June. That I'm leading, so there's a lot that I have to do for that. So the prep for this next film is pretty intense, and that's kind of what I'm working on 24/7.
And so clarifying, like mental prep, physical prep, like
both actually. The prep for this one that I just did, my character was relatively small because we're in a small group of friends.
Sure.
I wasn't the focal point on this project. So my prep wasn't so much in depth as it should be in most cases. I played kind of like the stoner friend of the group, So my prep for that was basically just smoke a bunch of weed, sit around in the same clothes that you're wearing, and just kind of like vibe off of everybody. Of course, going over the lines and everything, and kind of creating your own little backstory. And in fact, the backstories that we made were like, how did we all kind of become friends in this friend group? And that's kind of what we latched onto when we created them. Basically, it was just me living in the house with everybody, being a chill-ass stoner, and kind of living the part for 2 weeks.
That's kind of prep.
Yeah, that's all the prep that was necessary for that. However, I just came off of a film the end of last year called Meat. Which I had been prepping for quite some time. I was the lead antagonist. It's an LGBTQ plus slasher, and I ended up giving like an 8-page monologue at the end of the film in full frontal.
Whoa!
Yeah, so there was a lot.
That's wild. Yeah,
that one was both mental and physical.
You gotta look good full frontal.
You gotta look good if you're looking full frontal. So like there was a lot of dietary changes. There was a lot of working out. There was a lot of sleeping. There was a lot of trying to at least get my body to an understandable physique to where like I'm able to, physically haul people. Like you gotta be able to lift dead weight. Right?
Yes, which is hard. Like if you've never lifted up someone pretending to be dead, it's hard. Or like a dead deer.
Yeah, like dead weight is ridiculously heavy.
For sure.
So like if you're a thin, scrawny guy, or if you're even like a little overweight, it doesn't quite translate to like, oh, this guy could move 7 bodies downstairs into a basement of some kind.
Right. It's like, where's the ability?
Exactly. So like I had to at least have some sort of physical
that
figure.
People recognize as like, that is someone who can do stuff.
Oh, okay. It's clear you could at least do something. So there was a workout, and there was an intensive training. I got a trainer for it. I actually had 2 trainers for
Right. Okay.
one trainer who was actually specifically trained to do professional athletes and bodybuilders for competitions.
Sweet.
So he had his own place, like an airplane hangar almost, with like the green turf and like everything.
Oh, right.
He put me through the ringer. He set me up with the meal prep plan that really worked. And then, of course, I was seeing our buddy Steve, too.
Yeah.
So, like, it was
like going to classes?
Yeah, classes and personal training.
Oh, cool. Wow. So you were, like, getting after it.
I was for about 10 months prior to the shooting.
And so, wait, when did it finish filming? Just
last October? Question mark? 2023?
What? 23. Oh, okay. So you were training for this when you were hanging out at the pool?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. And then the mental side of it, the preparation basically came down to like, what was my music playlist when I was at the gym, which consisted a lot of like Disturbed, Korn, System of a Down, really like angry, hurtful music, mostly because to get into that headspace of being the lead antagonist, yeah, you kind of got me a little out of it.
Sure.
So, It was a headspace I didn't like being in by any means. I'm really happy to be gone from that project, or at least like that character. It hasn't come out yet. It should be out hopefully by the end of this year.
Cool.
But like at least keep your eye out for it when it happens.
Nice. Yeah,
I'll see a lot of me.
I would. That's what I'm hoping for, is to see a whole lot of Tony.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of it.
Excellent.
And that also kind of goes the same for these next 2 projects that I'm working on. Granted, I'm not doing any like frontal or anything, but like one of them is a camping film.
Okay.
It's another slasher film, but like we're a bunch of buddies out camping, and at one point we're swimming in the water, so shirt comes off.
Sure.
You don't want to. There's a pressure to being on film when you have to show skin because it's cemented forever.
That's history.
Yeah. And there's pressure behind it. So
sure.
You have to do stuff.
So, with regards to that, what if the character what if part of the character is not giving a shit about how they look? Has that ever happened? Or okay, so then you're just like, all right, well, I'll have my shirt off and I won't be happy about it. Like,
oh yeah, in fact, the film that I was at the premiere for yesterday, Shredded. Yeah, it was about 2 people who both had traumatic life experiences, and them kind of coming together and meeting, and then kind of sharing that sort of obstacle and overcoming that obstacle in a very, you butt heads at first, and then you kind of let your walls down and kind of embrace each other and help each other.
You have like a trauma dick measuring contest, and you're like, okay, actually, both our lives suck, let's move mine, get everyone together.
Yeah. In a loving way.
Sure, of course.
But in that film, it's called Shredded, which is a take on surfing. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, and also the play on words of being completely shredded.
Okay.
Not like shredded, but like emotionally.
Yeah.
So there's a nice little play on words there. But like how our 2 characters had met was through a surfing class, and we shot it all in Queens at Rockaway. So there was a really fun experience surfing. But of course, shirts off at one point. Didn't matter at that point because I'm not trying to like look like this big buff dude. I'm just me.
Sure.
Yeah. So no, there was no preparation for that physically.
I gotcha. Nice. Okay, so you mentioned that you have your own production company. Mm-hmm. How do you balance? I guess what is the balance between what you do for like the agency and then what you do for yourself? Because you do acting and your other job for the agency, and then you act act, produce, direct, write for your production company.
Yeah.
So, and that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it can be, but everything is scheduled out accordingly.
Okay.
So lately, my production company has been working alongside of another individual who has her own production company, Found Bull Films. Her name is Spooky Madison, who is also the lead of Boy From Below.
Oh,
Or she also happens to work at Haven Talent as the agent's assistant. So we work together quite often, at least inside the agency. So we do work on projects outside of the agency. We just finished doing 2 or 3 short films, and we've got probably 4 more on the horizon that we're working on right now.
short films.
Yeah, and a couple of features too, mind you. We've got a full plate on our hands. But when it comes to like putting those together, we sit down and we kind of talk about some details over time, and then when we start getting the scheduling of things, we try and shoot things on a weekend outside of the office hours, and it's generally easier to shoot on weekends. So basically, it doesn't necessarily interfere with the day job, and it doesn't interfere with us being booked on other projects. For example, we were both on The Boy From Below, so we were both occupied for 2 weeks. And now that we're back, we're going to start back into looking at our next project and how to move forward. Kind of see where we're at on the agenda, how we can start tackling our next project. Basically, you choose a date, and then you just start looking for your locations. You start getting your crew together. You start doing your castings, and then all behind the scenes, you start working in pre-production by narrowing down how you want the script to look. You get the shot list together. You do all of those stuff behind the scenes, either at home, in the office.
That just sounds like so much work, though. Well, like
life, man.
I know it is, and I guess for most people who are watching this, at least at this point in the show, know that I am a pretty big movie guy, and so at one point in college, I was like this close to going into like screenwriting, and it didn't happen, but I spent a lot of time just like watching movies, watching a lot of behind the scenes. So like from the layman's perspective, I'm rather advanced, but from a professional perspective, I'm like ravenous in terms of like wanting to get all this info down. So you mentioned a lot of steps there.
Yep.
So let's just talk about your production company.
Sure.
If you've got a project in mind,
yep.
Like who's doing the scouting? Like how? Like what are the resources that you're using? And because I'm assuming like budget-wise, like I don't know how you raise money or how you do it for your own production company. So I guess maybe let's start there. How do you get the funds to do your stuff?
Well, everything costs money, right?
Right.
So where does the money come from?
Yeah.
The money comes from a couple of different places. One, it comes out of usually like Indiegogos, so like crowdfunding.
Okay.
It's a big way of at least getting a higher budget for the final project. However, in order to successfully go through the whole Indiegogo process, you have to present your pitch deck to the public.
Pitch deck, is that like a script or like a sizzle reel or what?
It's everything combined. A pitch deck is basically, like if you were the investor and I came to you and I said, hey, listen, I want to make a movie. Will you help me? You probably want to know all the details about this movie, right? So instead of me pulling stuff out of my ass, I need to have this portfolio that I can basically hand to you and say, here's all the details about what we want to do, which would cover the budget, it would cover the story itself, the general vibe of what we want to do. And usually what we include is the sizzle reel, which is actually called a proof of concept.
Oh, that makes sense.
A proof of concept is generally a very short film that runs like 5 minutes that we film, and it just kind of gives an overall arc of, this is kind of the story we want to tell in like 100 minutes versus 5 minutes, but you can kind of see where we're going.
Sure.
So
and you would just shoot that like in like a day, I assume.
Yeah. So the most recent one that we did, which is full credit on Spooky Madison at Fowler-Fit Films, because she wrote, directed, and produced, and pretty much did everything on this.
Dang, Spooky Madison.
Edited, yeah, she's phenomenal. It's called Rabbit Season.
Okay.
So that project, Rabbit Season. Yeah. So for that one, we shot our proof of concept in one evening overnight at a cabin for our location down in Hockley Hills. So to get the location for that, fortunately enough, she has a connection and a friend, somebody who has rights to this cabin, so we didn't have to worry about going through all of the legal channels to be able to sign off and use it for our production. We just kind of had our permission for it. I think it was about 8 to 9 hours we shot overnight for a project that ended up being about 5 minutes long. In fact, I can send it up in two if you like. Right now, it's currently sitting in the film freeway circuit right now, and we actually just submitted it to Monkey Paw Productions too. In case you don't know who that is, that's Jordan Peele's.
Oh, yeah.
Company.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll hear something back by the end of July. At least that's the expiration date.
Cool.
But we shot our proof of concept for this particular film. We put together our pitch deck, which is a PDF that ran probably 9 to 11 pages of like the general synopsis, the story that we want to tell. It's got a list of actors. Like, if we had the biggest budget in the world, like, what 2 actors would you want playing these characters?
Gotcha. Yeah, in the most ideal situation. Right. Yeah. So, and then if not, someone this type.
Right.
Brad Pitt type actor.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was her and I who played those characters in the film. So you'll see she plays the lead and I'm the lead antagonist. So like, who would you want playing those characters, right? And I chose Henry Cavill to play my character.
Why not?
So you include that, and then you include a budget breakdown. You know, like what we would like to get in a reasonable sort of amount of money, so that we can pay the crew, we can pay the location, we can put it in crafty, we can pay the actors. You know, everything that's broken down by a nice little bar chart, easy viewing, and then the full script, and we basically just hand that over to whoever's willing to invest. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is, you know, pulling money out of your own pocket.
Sure.
Which we had to do. I mean, you have to do that.
Yeah.
Of course. But that's usually how you get the budget to be able to do these types of projects.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so as far as scouting goes, how does that work? Are you doing some of the scouting? Do you like someone in charge of that?
Generally, when you're on big budget productions, you do have somebody who's in charge of that. But because it's just kind of the two of us kind of trying to get this thing together, we're sharing all of these resources. But granted, I do still give full credit to Spooky for pretty much headlining the entire project, because it is her project. She's the one who found the location. Fortunately, we didn't have to look for actors because it was just 2 actors and the 2 of us did it ourselves. But in the event of looking for other actors, the first thing we do is we reach out to actors that we know personally, that we've worked with in the past, that we already have relationships with, that we know can deliver the kind of performance that we want. So we reach out to them first to see if they're interested.
Sure.
Once you go beyond that, we start sending out auditions, whether it be through Facebook groups like Ohio Filmmakers, or if you send it through agencies, or however you want to get it out there, you send out a general casting call. You know, you've got like 4 characters, here's a basic description and a basic need range of what they need to be, and then other actors will pick it up. They'll do a self-tape, which is generally, you know, you're in front of a blank backdrop, you've got good lighting, no obstructions, and you film it yourself, and then you send it off to the casting director to review. Just go through that process to find actors.
Wow. So whenever I watch behind the scenes, you know, like as a kid, watching like behind the scenes of Sam Raimi on like Spider-Man.
Love Sam.
So so good. And or like whatever. I mean, what doesn't matter if you're watching special features, but you get an idea of how it's made. Those are for like these 100, 150, $200 million movies. Studio movies,
Yeah.
right. And so, like, I feel like that isn't an accurate representation because, you know, I know it's changed with streaming. Actors now have, like, way more work. But I feel like the 1% of actors that you're typically seeing in those studio movies, I just feel like that process isn't necessarily accurate for, like
indie filmmakers.
Yeah.
It's similar. It's nowhere near the same, of course, but it's very similar. It's just when you're looking at a studio production and you're looking at the professionalism behind that, think about every single thing has its own person headlining that division. So there's one person who's running casting specifically. There's one person. Granted, there might be a couple of people to help out, but like there's a department for casting, a department for hair and makeup, a department for crafty, a department for this, that, and the other, right? When you're doing it in the indie world, it's like one of the actors might also be doing hair and makeup.
Sure.
You know, one of the producers is also probably a script supervisor. So it's like...
I think that's just so much cooler, though, because I guess you just have more of an impact. And so your voice becomes less important, I feel like, as you get to, like, the studio sort of level, I feel like.
It's very interesting in a way that, like, if you start in the indie world where, you know, I kind of live, everybody cares a lot more, and you don't care about titles. Like, nobody's better than anybody else in the indie world. We're all just working together to get this project together and, like, have fun.
Yeah,
but also be professional and produce a film, right? And that's the indie world. Everybody's doing everything all at once. And if you start that way, you have a better indication of the importance of every role and the importance of getting the job done. Whereas there's a lot of people who are like, don't have experience, and then they fly out to LA. Somebody might hit it lucky and get into a studio gig. And they see how studios are run, and then they get very jaded based off of like, you know, like, I'm here to act and nobody else matters. I'm above everybody else. And they start treating people poorly and they start turning into this toxic world. And granted, it's not like that so much anymore. But I feel like if you start in the indie world and work your way up and you start getting into these bigger projects, you start feeling a little bit more like I can kind of relax a little bit. You know, like if I'm on a film now and I'm only a talent and I'm not doing anything else, it feels
less responsibility.
Yeah, but it also feels like I'm not doing enough because I'm so used to the indie world where I am doing everything, where I have to turn my filmmaker brain off and I have to sit back and remind myself, I'm here for one role and I need to relax. It's all right. Somebody else has it covered. They'll take care of it. And it's humbling in a way, too.
Right.
Which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I guess if you, in the season 20 Game of Thrones, the leader of the Night's Watch says to Jon Snow, he's like, if you want to lead, learn to follow.
Yeah,
it's great advice.
You got to start from the bottom and work your way up, because then you learn discipline in it.
Oh, yeah.
And you learn responsibility. And you learn teamwork. And you learn all of those things that, like, if you were to just buy your way through, I don't mean that literally.
Sure.
It's not a pay-to-play game, but, like, if you just kind of coast through it and you get higher up for whatever reason, you don't have that, you can get jaded really quickly and kind of burn out into this toxicity type of a mess.
So, why be an entertainer? Just shifting gears, bro.
Why?
Yeah.
Aside from it being fun?
Sure. So I guess, why did you go into it? Like, no, that was a poor question. No. You know what I mean, though. Like, it's because obviously it's a blast. Like you just had this awesome bonding experience. You get to balance having fun with being a professional. So I get that. But when you were going into it, what made you do the dive?
I hate to sound cliche when I say this, but I've done it my whole life. I really have. In elementary school is when I did my first play, which I was not at all confident about. And then in high school, you know, I was in drama and I did plays as well down in the short north. When I was a little child, I took Halloween very seriously. I had so many different costumes that I would wear even outside of the season. You know, I'd be running around the house dressed like Peter Pan after watching Robin Williams' Hook for the first time. You know what I mean? And then that sort of developed out of high school, developed into me being a cosplayer, where I would play characters like Jack Sparrow or Spider-Man. Or
show the Jack Sparrow tag.
I was even doing a gig in New Orleans as Jack Sparrow, and I figured I might as well get it for real, right?
Let's go.
So I started doing that, which was, in a way, impersonating a character that already exists, which is still acting, but never did I believe that like being an actor was a real, feasible, achievable thing. You know, you think of actors as these mythological celebrities that just exist and somehow are in the right place at the right time. It's never an achievable thing. So I never even fathomed that idea. And then as I kept getting further and further into cosplay,
how were you?
How old was I?
Yeah.
Right. I'd say up to about 10 years ago, even. So, like, as I'm in my mid-20s, right? A buddy of mine who still a really good friend of mine, who lives out in LA now, his name is Dain. He's been acting a lot longer than I have. He just kind of came up to me one day and he was like, you know, he knew that I did all of this cosplay stuff and that I did Jack Sparrow. And he was like, hey man, why don't you just go talk to my agent and just do like a little thing for him? Like, why not?
Sure.
Okay. So I did. I went in. I did a try read for him. Super green, like not knowing anything. And they were like, terrible, we'll sign you. Don't know why they did. It was so bad when I look back at it, and I failed so much so quickly. And I wasn't taking it seriously at the time because I still wasn't confident in myself when it came to acting.
Sure. So it's like, oh, I don't care about this. If I care and then suck, then I suck for real.
Exactly. Yeah. It's that whole, you know, hiding behind the ego.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So I'm doing commercial auditions regularly, and what's funny is I still have all of my auditions I've ever done saved on a hard drive. Right, as far back as like 2018.
You want some humble pie?
I've rewatched a lot of them even as of lately, and it's cringe worthy. Yeah, but like I realized that over the span of like 3 years, I really changed in developing how to audition for commercial, how to audition for film, and then I actually started doing better and better. And the reason why I stuck with it and the reason that I want to do it is because it's the benefit of I get to live so many different lives in such a short amount of time that it keeps me hungry for more. I get to see things that people don't get to see. I get to go places that people don't get to go, and I get to learn skills that most people don't get to do. And while I'm trying to stay humble about this, those experiences are like invaluable. For example, the last film that I was just talking about that I did the premiere for yesterday, Shredded, I get to learn how to surf for a job.
Right. Fair enough.
I get to eat healthy, and I get to work on my body, which is an appreciation that I never had prior, because now there's a pressure to having to look a certain way on film. So there's a motivation behind it.
Yeah.
Which is a reason to want to do those things, which I never had before. I did a film where we were in a prison. I was a prisoner in this prison film, and I got to go places in this prison that like even normal tour groups wouldn't be able to go. And we got to experience these different things and see all of these different like rooms and learn all of this behind the scenes type stuff about this stuff, which was really cool. I get to go to states that I wouldn't normally go to. I get to meet amazing people that I wouldn't have normally been able to meet. I get experiences, and that's the reason why I want to keep doing this.
Sure. So it's just the adventure of a lifetime.
It's the adventure of a literal lifetime. Being able to, it's like, you know, if I'm going to be a murderer for this film, right? I get to experience what it's like to be a murderer for a minute.
Sure.
Before I get out of that mindset and realize, oh God, my life could be a whole lot worse than it really is.
Well, but I think that's also important because I think what's cool about actors is actors know that they could be bad people or they could be really good people if they went a certain path. And what I mean by that is just like you're forced to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, well, what would it take for me to actually like want to kill someone, or like get in that mindset? And you're like, well, what if they had this set of experiences, and what if they never check their ego, and you know that, and then over time this builds, and then they snap and they do it once, and well, to repent would be almost impossible for them because they'd have to forgive all this time, and you build this like story in your head, and all of a sudden it's like, that's what it would take to be a murderer. And then you're like, okay, well, like, I guess it just gives you perspective on the world.
Yes, it does. And like you could see these different avenues and paths of life decisions that you don't ever want to have to make. Or like, you know, I'm doing a rom-com with this amazing person of which I would never have a relationship with, but I get to experience what it's like to have this relationship and then like go through this loving embrace with another human being, which, you know, it's a scripted story, of course, and it's something that would never happen. You know, you look at Hallmark movies and you're like, it's a cookie cutter movie where, you know, this guy comes home for the holidays and he meets all his old high school friends he hasn't seen in 10 years, and then he falls in love with his high school sweetheart, and he ends up like quitting his job and realizing that like it's a sample story, right? But it's something that never happens in reality. And if you get to live that experience even for a month, you know, it's like that's really cool.
So that's what that would be like.
It's you get so many different life experiences in such a short amount of time.
Right.
I got to learn how to shoot a gun. Like, I got to learn skills when it comes to handling weapons for a role, which I'm sure I could have done anyways. But like, you do a martial arts movie, right? If you don't know anything about martial arts, what do? You go out and you get a trainer and you start learning these things. I did a music video for an amazing human being, Carrot Church. She just released, this was maybe 2 years ago, she released an album, and one of her singles was a Christmas song called Smells Like Snow.
Okay.
Anyway, she hired me to be her love interest for that music video, and unfortunately, I didn't know how to dance. Still don't know how to dance. But
skill to be acquired.
Exactly. So what I did is I went to Fred Astaire, and I learned how to ballroom dance in so many different ways over such a short amount of time that like I was at least adequate enough to be able to do it on the day. So like again, you know, you get to learn skills that you wouldn't normally have that now just kind of hide in the recesses of my brain. It's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you're getting to have all those just random experiences, because you almost don't even know. It's like, hey, for this movie, you're gonna have to do this. It's like, okay. And it's also cool because it's just like, you're just down.
Yeah.
Down for a good time. Like, oh, this is a cool thing I had to learn? Okay, like, here for it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I want more skills? Why wouldn't I want more perspective and experience? So I totally get that. Okay, so switching gears, influence.
Yeah.
We'll say actor, actress, when you start taking it seriously, who were you looking up to? Maybe some childhood stars, like who did you look up to, and we'll kind of go from there.
So my number one favorite actor is always going to be Jim Carrey. And if you look at a lot of my comedy stuff from most of my commercials, I use a lot of Jim Carrey because he's a very cartoonish character.
Definitely.
But not only that, if you ever follow him, he's kind of out there in terms of what he believes about existence and the universe and reality.
I watched that documentary about
Man on the Moon.
Is that where he like?
Kaufman?
Yeah. Yes. That's the one I watched.
Yeah, that was a bit extreme.
For sure. You're like, whoa, what a dive.
Yeah, like the whole method portion of things I don't quite agree with. I mean, to an extent, you know, like where he took it is a bit extreme in my opinion, but like if he still kind of lived in it for a little bit, that's kind of where I like to keep things. Like I said, for Boy From Below, you know, I just lived that character,
right?
A chill stoner for 2 weeks. That's super easy. But at least in terms of like Jim Carrey, where he's at and his range of what he can do, is he says it enough. He lets everybody. He's free of concern. He becomes the person to where you can just let go and he doesn't care, and it's great. Like I kind of try and do the same thing when I play comedy, and a lot of his stuff lives right here in the face. So to be able to control a lot of the facial features and like speak without words is a skill that's very difficult for a lot of people, let alone actors themselves. And that's something that I'm trying to work on more and more. And to be able to use that is because of him.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of other actors that I
Sure.
still look up to, but whenever I take a role of a project, I always try to imagine what it's going to look like as the final copy. Like I'll turn the filmmaker brain on, and then I'll think like, how would I put this together myself if I was
Mm-hmm.
editing it and filming it? What kind of a project is it going to be? And that'll help kind of determine what kind of a character this person is. And then I'll start looking like, what projects exist already that have a vibe of what we're going for? What kind of actors can I like put together in some sort of an amalgamation to create what I'm trying to do?
Okay.
And then just kind of like absorb those particular actors and kind of give birth to this creation that I'm bringing in.
This amalgamation that is your inspiration, plus it's you, like it's your face, your experience, and and which is what you want. I mean, you want it to be totally authentic.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is just like when you're portraying a character, like in a film, for example, you're not just being another person.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and I think Meryl Streep is the one who said it. It's you're not being another person. You're looking for the similarities between the character and yourself, and you're meeting them halfway to portray that character. So like when I'm playing whatever kind of character it is, I need to look at everything about that person and realize like, what about that person do I reflect? And then how can I kind of build my peripherals to flesh out what that character is? So every character I've ever played is me,
right?
But like not me.
Sure. Well, so I saw like a Tom Hiddleston interview probably like 10 years ago, and where he was like, "Shit, I caught myself acting." And like he was doing like takes this Loki, and he was like, "I caught myself acting." Like, stop acting, stop pretending.
Yeah.
How would you react to this? You know, obviously you're not a 5,000-year-old god, but
right.
You know, you're playing a Shakespearean character, so it's like, okay, how do I feel this sort of way? Yeah, I think that's so interesting, and that's why I feel like sometimes it's hard to be an actor, where it's like you're willingly going sometimes to these dark places, where it's like John Bernthal's like, I love playing the Punisher because it's a character that I care a lot about, but I hate being in the headspace of the Punisher. I'm like, yeah, I bet, dude. Yeah. And also, like, when you watch him, like, my wife and I both have, like, huge crushes on him. And we watch the Punisher pretty much annually. And every time we just start, like, marathoning it because John Bernthal is just a man. Phenomenal. He's so, everything he does, you're just captivated because he just conveys that he is someone who has lost his family. And is just like living it in his head, and you see it, and you're just like feel bad for him all the time. So it's just like so compelling when you're watching it. But when he's saying like, yeah, it like sucks being in that headspace, I'm like, clearly, I get that. I get you're having a bad time.
That's the worst part of it. It's also the freeing part of it too.
Sure.
Like for the Shred premiere for that film, the part that I didn't mention was about those two characters and their horrible life. Experiences as they're coming together. That the character that I played was based on a real person, the writer-director. The character has had breast cancer. Okay. It was dealing with cancer throughout the movie. And so to put myself in his shoes, I had to find a way, like I've never had cancer, not gonna believe.
Right.
Yeah. But my mom just went through not coming out clean, of course. She passed from cancer. And I was with her for her last year, and I saw things I didn't want to have to see. But I was with her as much as I possibly could be. I watched her struggle with it, and I watched the expressions on her face. I watched her slowly and then rapidly decline. And it tore me apart. And then when I was, connecting with Adam Michael, who was the writer-director, the person who I was playing in this film, and he told me about his experiences. He is cancer-free, thankfully, yes. But when he was going through the whole process of the fear and dealing with it, like, I don't know what that's like, but I know what it's like to be very close to somebody who is going through it. So that was my connection to it. So I found that connection, and then I just kind of filled in all of the other little holes around it to flesh out that character. So when I'm giving this monologue about my discovery, about having cancer and what it feels like to go through it, I'm not just saying the lines, I'm not speaking for him, I'm speaking for my mom.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying. So when I start breaking down, like it's all real.
Yeah, you're not acting. You're just allowing those emotions to creep up.
Yeah.
And it also, you just have to not give a fuck.
You have to be super vulnerable.
Yeah.
You can't have walls up, and that's the hardest part, is being so comfortable to just be open and vulnerable, which we all survive through the ego. That's what we do. To put that aside, it's not an easy task. And believe me, like it's up 24/7. It really is. But then when those moments come, you have to be okay with it. It's not easy.
So whenever, I don't ever plan on being an actor, but in my head, sometimes I'm just like, I just play what if.
Yeah.
And whenever I think about authenticity, like going to that place, I'm always just like, ugh. Even just like thinking about it is stressful.
It is.
Because it's like a nerve. It's just there. And I've seen lots behind the scenes. This is kind of random, but I think his name's Christopher Judge. He was the actor who did the motion capture for Kratos in the God of War game. He was also in Stargate and a bunch of other stuff. But when the 2018 game came out, they released a documentary just about the making of the game, and he was not present for a time for his kids. And the character Kratos is kind of echoing some of that. And even in the interview, he was like, okay, well, if I go, like, he was like even hesitant to let the walls down to go there for the project. Like, if I go there, then it's me being regretful on camera for being somewhat absent in my own children's life.
Yeah.
And then he starts tearing up in the interview, and it's just like, yeah, and that's kind of all I'll say about that. And it's like, and my wife and I were watching, also getting emotional, and if you look at it surface level, you could almost be like, were you getting emotional watching a documentary about a video game? It's like, I actually fucking was, because it's the person, because that person went all in for a mocap performance, and it's just respect.
It's when it's real, it translates.
Yeah.
If you're caught myself acting,
yeah,
it shows, and then you're removed from it. Like when I go to a movie at a theater, I go to a theater to be immersed in the story and to be immersed in it, because it's on this big screen. You've got
you want to buy it. You want to buy into whatever's going on.
I mean, nowadays everything's on stream. It's like going to a theater is almost a chore, and it costs so much. And
if you're getting snacks or whatever.
Yeah, there's so much to it, and it's not what it used to be. Like I can watch anything I want, even on my phone. Right. On my computer, in my own living room, I can just watch it and be cool. Get up, go to the bathroom, get some snacks. It's not a big deal. But when you're in a theater, you're forced to be in this confined spot. Your phone is hopefully on silent. And in your pocket.
For sure.
Not out. I will say, when I'm in a theater and I see the light of a phone turn on, I'm immediately removed, and I hate
100%. 100%. I was in high school. I was always like, hey, turn your phone, like, put your phone away. Just for 2 hours. Just do it. Man. Just do it without them to see it.
No.
One of my best friends, when we go to movies, he'll like check.
Oh, I'm like, dude, no. Like, if you have something that's that important, don't be in a movie, right? Just don't.
Yeah.
No.
The time is clear.
If like, you're waiting on an important phone call, maybe schedule to go see this movie on another day.
Right. Well, because I want to enjoy it. And that's why, like, when you see a bad movie, you're like, damn. I wanted to see that. Like, I wanted it to be good.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to a theater.
You're taken out of that experience if you're caught acting. You're taken out of that experience if the actor who's portraying the character isn't real. So even in the instance of this Credo mocap documentary about a video game, you're emotional because the character is real.
Yes.
He's giving an experience that's real, and you're believing it. You're buying it because it's not fake.
Yeah. Well, in the same documentary, so that Kratos has a son, Atreus, and they had to have a child actor do mocap. And the child actor in the game kills a deer, and it's the child's first time killing a deer. And the director is like having to explain to the kid, he's like, you know, I think they did a few takes and they're stopped because just like it wasn't really good.
Right.
And you know, which is hard for a child actor. I feel so bad. So bad for child actors. But it's like, okay, so what you're doing right now, director like gets down, the kid's level, it's like, so this deer can have kids. And just like really like kind of treats this kid like an adult. It's like, okay, this deer can have kids, but you have to eat, right? So you're going to take its life knowing that it might have kids, and that's what you're conveying. This is the first time you're doing that. And the kid starts turning up. It's like, oh, that sucks. It's like, right. Yeah. So now we're going to go. Yeah. And action. So and then it turns out great because you kind of got to get this kid to feel that, to believe that. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you're taking a life. Now there's baby Bambis running around without a mama deer, and I don't know, the process to me is just so fascinating. I was listening to Ethan Hawke on Smartless.
Love Ethan.
Dude, he's the man. He's the man. Sinister. Have you seen Sinister?
I love it.
It's one of the best horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
So good. But he was on Smartless with like Jason Bateman, and they have a podcast, and you know, I was listening to it and I was being a little cynical because they were talking about the exact same thing we're talking about, getting into the process and sort of the headspace. And he was playing a killer. I think it was the movie Black Phone.
Oh, I love Black Phone.
Yeah, we saw it in theaters. That was pretty good. And, you know, it's like, of course I get stuck in that sort of bad headspace. And I don't know why I was cynical. I was like, man, but that's what I want them to do. And like I know it's hard. I think the last movie I just saw was the new Dune.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my god,
I know.
So good. Best I feel like CGI like hasn't been okay. Words are tough. And I guess I'll address the most recent batch of like Marvel movies recently. Oh, right, dude. Like, you know, shitting out $200 million using the volume.
Yeah.
There's really no excuse, but I know how they're making these. They're fucking waiting until the last minute to do like third act revisions, and they're stressing the fuck out of their VFX team, and like, so the VFX is bad, and I don't know who's writing them, but dude, post Endgame has just been a bummer.
It has been.
It has been a bummer. And that's not to say I haven't liked some of the stuff. Like I like Shang-Chi, Eternals. People shit on that, dude. That's probably the movie I've seen the most post Endgame. I really enjoyed it. I think it should have been a Disney Plus show, but like,
it should have been a show for sure.
For sure.
You could have talked about each character. Yeah.
For sure, should have been a show.
You're a big video game guy, right?
Yep.
You know what it feels like? Since Endgame, it feels like, you know, you finished the main story and now you're just doing side quests.
Yeah, we're just doing side quests. There's no endgame. There's no endgame. Literally. And they could have even like taken a step back and just like done some building with new characters, but like they're not doing that. They introduced a bunch of new characters, but there's also like these big budget movies that are just like sort of self-contained. Like there's multiverse stuff happening, but like
they're dropping the ball.
They're dropping the ball hard, and it's depressing.
It is.
Obviously, like No Way Home. You know, there's like some diamonds in the rough there.
Sure.
Every
so often.
Bro, we have to talk about it. The first trailer came out for Deadpool Wolverine. What the fuck were we talking about? Deadpool Wolverine. Okay, so I saw the trailer, right?
Yes.
And I can't remember what the last Marvel movie was, but it doesn't really matter because it doesn't matter.
Post-Endgame.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But I'll tell you what, bro. I watched that trailer and I was like, I might actually like watch the movies, like some of the X-Men and well, obviously the Deadpool movies. But like, I got stoked. Like, I got so stoked. I started like, oh, whoa, okay, this much time beforehand, I'll watch like the first X-Men movie, and like dude, I hadn't like been giddy, like Christmas morning giddy, for a superhero movie in forever. So I was like, all the way on board.
You're right. We got to watch the X-Men movies again.
100%.
You know it's coming out. I mean, they even showed all of the cameos that might be in it that they were able to see. So like they pulled Pyro, they pulled Lady Deathstrike, and you know Lady Deathstrike was in X-Men Origins
and
Origins with Wolverine.
Oh yeah.
And then Pyro was in X2.
Yes.
Yeah. So like we have to watch those because we know the premises. It's, Deadpool is doing the whole Loki.
Yeah, the TVA.
Yeah, he's doing the TVA.
Which I like Loki. That was really good.
That was probably the best thing that came out of post-end.
I 100% agree.
The Loki story.
Yeah, but I'm like, okay, TVA, sweet.
Yeah. So he's going to try it because now, you know, Disney owns Fox. So they now technically own the X-Men, or at least rights to the majority of the X-Men. So this is their way of bringing all of the IPs together into one world, which is giving us the Fantastic Four, which I'm very
stoked for. Yeah, I'm also
do it right.
Yeah, I'm a little sus.
Same.
Because they're doing I don't even know the character's name, but they're doing the female version of Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, look.
Oh, Galactus is the bad guy, I believe.
Which is fine. Like, dude, Galactus is dope.
Yeah.
Why would you not just give me Norrin Rad though? Like, I don't care for the most part about like doing the swaps, whatever. I think people get too pissed about that. But like, what is this alt Silver Surfer? Like, dude, I'm a pretty big comics guy. I've got a Silver Surfer comic issue from the 90s.
Yeah, it's actually sitting on your mantle. I think I saw it when I was there.
Yeah, I've got it. I love it. You know, the Fantastic Four movies from the 2000s, like, they're special. I'm not saying they're amazing, but
they're campy.
They're campy, but
they were fun.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun to watch, but like Silver Surfer is pretty sick in the second one. Like, why would you not just give me a Norrin Rad Silver Surfer with all the best CGI and graphics and like have an awesome actor play it? Instead, it's like, I don't even know the character's name. Like, and like we're the audience.
Yeah. But
I am stoked for the cast though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, two things. One, I believe, and it's all just rumor and speculation, which is what all of these things are. It's just hype. It's just, you know, fodder. But I hope it's true where they said that Chris Evans might be playing Human Torch in Deadpool Wolverine as a variant. I
would lose my mind. Well, I heard they're bringing Jennifer Garner as Elektra.
Yeah,
that's what I heard.
And
I heard she was on set.
Ben Affleck as
Daredevil. Dude.
Yeah, and I think they even said Wesley Snipes is Blade. I think they're bringing in like everything from what we grew up with.
Because why not? Wesley Snipes as Blade was legit. The first two Blade movies are awesome. Blade Trinity is bad.
It is. It really is.
It is.
But yeah, the second one was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Guillermo del Toro crushes that one.
He does everything. I mean, even when he did the Hellboy movies, like fantastic.
Hellboy, dude.
Yes.
Oh, same page.
Yes.
My dad and I love Golden Army.
So good.
When they go to the troll market and
Dude,
they're like, what a cute kid. And they're like, I'm not a baby, I'm a tumor. It's just like so random and weird. Oh, we love it. The troll market is sick.
Yep.
The Kloss Ghost
dude
is awesome.
Death at the End.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like definitely a play with Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I'm there for that aesthetic.
Oh yeah.
It looks so good.
It's absolutely phenomenal. When I was in Minnesota a couple of years ago, they were doing a museum with all of Del Toro's work, including all of his movies and all of his like drawings and original works. So like, I get to see all that jazz.
That's awesome.
So talented.
He's a legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Someone made a joke. He was like the Latino Peter Jackson. In a way, yeah. I mean, like chubby dudes.
But which is actually really funny because the Silver Surfer from the second Fantastic Four. Yeah, it was played by Doug Jones.
Yes. What's his name in the Hellboy movies? He's the
Blue.
Yeah, the amphibian guy.
Yeah. Can't remember his name. To save my life.
Oh, that's gonna stress me out.
He's the greatest character actor that's ever lived.
Yeah, he's amazing.
And of course, the voice was Morpheus, right?
Yes, it was Lawrence Fishburne. Yes. Yeah.
So like, we could have that.
We could. If they cast the same, if it was Lawrence Fishburne's voice and if it was Doug Jones, like I'd be there for it.
Yeah.
Because the CGI wasn't bad in the 2007 one, but they like pimped it out again and like made Galactus not a cloud.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's very true. Stupid. But also at the same time, remember that those movies, while the CGI was actually still passable, it still holds up to this day.
Yeah.
They put time into it. Just like you said earlier, that's what they're doing with these Marvel movies. They're waiting until the week before release to do everything because of all of these spoiler leaks and changes. And I mean, every Marvel actor who's come out the other end has always looked back on their experience after press release, of course.
Yeah.
And have said, like, it was the worst experience as an actor I've ever had.
Dude, Benedict Cumberbatch on Multiverse of Madness, which when I first saw, did you see it?
Yeah.
When I first saw it, yeah, when I first saw it, okay, so I've seen that movie a lot. I've watched it a bunch of times, and I have a love-hate relationship with it.
Same.
Because first of all, it's some of the it's got some of the most classic Sam Raimi shots.
Oh yeah.
It's some of the shots are beautiful. Like when she what do they call it? Dream walks.
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch dream walks into her other self.
Yeah.
And she sees the cup of tea and it's got waves from an ocean in it.
Yeah.
And the peas are moving around. I'm like, this is classic. It just Evil Dead 2 vibes.
Yeah,
Evil Dead 2 vibes.
Dude, so much of the movie was Evil Dead.
Yeah, and I loved it. And that's what I want. Dude, when I saw Evil Dead 2 for the first time, that was the first Evil Dead movie I saw. My parents went to bed and I was watching it on TV. And I remember walking up to my room afterwards and I was afraid. But I didn't know what to even be afraid of. Because so much crazy shit happens in that movie. You're just I'm just generally terrified. I'm also had a blast and laughed. It's somehow funny and absolutely horrifying at the same time. And so when all that stuff is happening in that movie, I'm like, this is great. But in an interview, Benedict Cumberbatch was like, well, in kind of typical Marvel fashion, we kind of redid the third act last minute, and do I even have an arc? And I was stoked by all the cameos. You get Patrick Stewart's back.
Yeah.
You had what's his name is Black Bolt, who was in the Inhumans show, which was terrible, but it was
John
still John Krasinski. Yeah, they did the fan casting. That was amazing. I was here for all of that, but it's just a bad script. I don't think I like what happens.
No.
Doctor Strange really doesn't have an arc. They kind of assassinate Wanda. I liked WandaVision a lot, but really they kind of make her Vision just should have been in that movie. What you had? I just why is he not in that? Paul Bettany just should have been in that in general. They had when she does her assault on Kamartaj, which has an awesome scene when she tells that guy, she's like, "Run."
Oh yeah.
I love that. That gives me chills.
Yeah.
But why are the sorcerers using bow and arrow spells and shooting cannons at her? I just didn't think it was very creative with the magic.
What happened with the sling ring and making a portal next to her and just having something
right? Because you know what movie I've seen? I've seen Infinity War. And I saw what happened when Doctor Strange fought Thanos with the gauntlet, and just how cool you can make these fights.
Yeah.
And so don't be coming at me with some magic bow and arrow bullshit. This should have been next level awesome. So I don't know. I've rewatched it a bunch because I like a lot of the shots, and I think it actually does look good. Strange reads from the Book of the Dead and it makes a zombie cake. I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm like, dude, more zombie cave action. I don't ask for much, No, that's my rant on that movie.
He went all out on that.
He did, and I love the Sam Raimiism. Yeah. I'm here for the Book of the Dead. I'm here for
it was fucking Evil Dead in Marvel. That's
yes,
all it was.
Yes, but for all the stuff in terms of doing the Marvel lifting, that was clearly supposed to be a big movie in the multiverse saga. I just don't think it carried the Marvel story anywhere.
Well, that's the thing too, is they haven't established anything yet. They just said, hey, the multiverse is it could be anything.
Yeah,
so let's
and that's what we're doing. We're doing literally
so
anything.
it's like, oh, okay, so there's no stake at the moment.
Right.
At least with Infinity War and Endgame, they gave us what the stake was by the second Avengers movie.
Yeah.
So we had, 15 films to watch that led up to it. So
right.
We had an objective.
And I'm not saying that all of I loved every movie in between Iron Man and Endgame. I like most of them. Some of them are really amazing.
And a lot of them.
And some of them are just like, yeah, okay.
That was a movie.
Yeah, that was a movie. That was some time that passed. But
I didn't get anything from it, but that's great.
But like, you cared enough because you're like, I know this character could be in an awesome movie later.
Yeah.
And then they were.
Or if they happen to reference something, I'll at least understand the reference.
Yeah, like I'm here for the plot, basically.
Yeah, like Dark World was basically all about the ether.
Yeah, the reality stone. Yeah.
So when they talk about it again, you at least, oh yeah, I remember something about. Okay, that makes sense. Go on.
And then they can also, like in Endgame, like when Thor's like giving a presentation about it, they can almost kind of shit on their own movies.
Yeah.
Because Thor's like, there were some dark elves and da-da-da-da. They just kind of like can kind of joke on it, and you're like, thank you for acknowledging the shit show that it was. Yeah, and which is what I think, to tie it back, which is what I think they can just do with this Deadpool Wolverine movie.
It's probably what they'll do. Is they'll probably like close every loose end.
They should.
Which would be fantastic.
Yeah, they should. And you know what? It's the only Marvel movie for the year.
Thankfully.
Yeah, and so it's
so
like, hey, I think they just need to slow down. It's a real thing now. I didn't like it was because it's been a term for forever, and people are saying it up some feed where I'm like, yeah, it's not real, but it's real now. All the Disney Plus shows.
It's real.
Like, did you watch She-Hulk?
Nope.
Dude, nope. It was so bad. Did you watch Echo?
Nope.
Echo. So
I auditioned for Echo.
Did you really?
Yeah. I'm really glad.
Yeah. Oh my god, for sure, dude. Echo is almost worse than She-Hulk because it's so boring.
Fair.
That at least She-Hulk it is not boring.
Wow.
She-Hulk is not boring.
Fair.
Well, there is an episode that does revolve around her like waiting for a text, so that one was boring. But it's not boring. It's egregious, and you're like, oh my god, like I can't believe this is happening the whole time, but in the worst way possible,
of course.
Whereas Echo, like I fell asleep at least 2 or 3 times, and there's only 5 episodes, and so like 2 or 3 of the 5 episodes I fell asleep and was like nodding off during. Granted, it was like during the newborn phase of like June, so I was more tired.
That's fair.
But I mean, they also like character assassinate Kingpin. He's not dead. I just mean like they just do him dirty.
Oh, okay.
Like they.
Regardless, it's not going to matter.
It doesn't
matter. Some summation, and I'll figure it out eventually.
Well, their fucking set photos are dropping from the Daredevil Born Again with him and fucking Burnfall back as Punisher.
Really? I have not seen anything. I've been kind of outside of social media a lot lately.
Fair enough. I mean, the algorithm, I've only been on more because I've been looking at more Deadpool Wolverine stuff.
Sure, then of course.
And now the algorithm is being fed.
Yeah.
It is feeding me John Burnfall photos of him as the Punisher again. And I'm like, oh. Okay. All right.
I'm back.
All right. I'll watch this show.
Who was the first actor to play Punisher?
Thomas Jane.
Yeah. I kind of want to see him show up in Deadpool.
Dude, Thomas Jane was an OG with John Travolta. Yeah, that was a good one.
I kind of want to see just a cameo of that. He doesn't have to do much. He can just kind of like look up and just be like, hey. And then just fuck off. That'd be fine.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that. I'm also in this.
Yeah. I just want to say hi.
Yeah, I mean, the Dirty Laundry fan film with him was also pretty cool.
Yeah.
I watched that, and I think the same guy who did that one also did it was like a Power Rangers fan film with Katie Sackhoff. It was like Kimberly, and it was like pretty cool. There was like some budget to it, dude. You might want to like make a mental note.
I mean, I'm all down for joining a Power Ranger fan film. I just did Lord Draken for Comic-Con.
Dude, and it looked sick. The Lord Draken costume was dope.
Thank you.
R.I.P. Jason David Frank.
Yeah. I met the original Red Ranger. He was there, and I did a photo shoot with him.
Oh,
or
really?
At least, I got a photo op with him. Yeah.
Austin St. John?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, he's such a cool dude.
He is cool. He was like a firefighter, I think, after.
He did a lot since then. In fact, he's only just now kind of coming back into the whole circuit of the fandom, which is kind of really cool.
Yeah, because I know in the last like 3 years, time goes by faster now. But he came back as Jason. No, yes, Jason on like one of the newer.
Yeah.
And I don't watch Power Rangers anymore, but every once in a while I'll see like something. I'm like, oh wait, they're back. I'll watch this.
They just did a reunion special thing on Netflix.
Did you watch it? I didn't watch it. Was it good?
It's.
I mean, nostalgia for sure. But Billy was there. I don't remember his actor.
David Yost.
Yes, David Yost. I mean, love him.
Yeah,
he's great. The actor who played Zach, I think, came back, right?
Yep.
What?
I'm trying to remember his name.
I don't remember his name.
He's great. I can't remember his name though. It's just escaping me. But I mean, it's worth the watch.
I'll definitely watch it. I mean, every once in a while,
the acting portion of it,
sure.
It can't be like the old Power Rangers, so that was kind of cute.
Yeah, I every once in a while, like I just am like doing some work at home. I'll like throw on like Power Rangers in the background.
Yeah.
Because I just can't help myself, and I'm like.
Oh yeah, no, I'll go down the old nostalgia train too. Like every so often, I think just recently I was watching Hey Arnold.
Nice.
You know, I was watching some old Cartoon Network shows, so like Courage, Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab.
Very good.
And I was just watching like randoms. I was watching Are You Afraid of the Dark recently.
Nice.
I just finished watching some more Goosebumps.
Oh, I went through. I did a Goosebumps nostalgia trip like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah,
that theme song is pretty solid.
It is pretty solid.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I coach my classes at Orange Theory, I'm very expressive with my arms, but it's
shocker.
But it's definitely because I watched too much Power Rangers as a kid. Because I'll be like, 3, 2, 1, all out, and like I shit you not, that is exactly what I do.
I think you almost worked there with that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Did you ever read there was like comics that came out? I don't know if you're a big comic guy.
For Power Rangers?
Yeah.
That's where it came from.
The Lord Draken, yeah.
Well, I mean, for the most part, the Power Rangers were a comic book. The Go-Go Rangers were... I have
like the Super Sentai, is that what you're talking about?
So Super Sentai is where it started from.
Yes, the Japanese show. Yeah.
And then once it came over, it turned into the comic series and had been running. It's still running. I have all of the storyline for Draken, of course.
I read all of that shit. Someone told me like they had Power Rangers comics. I was like, what? Yeah, and it was good. It's still like it was like straight up legit good comic books.
Yeah, and there's like graphic ones too, where like the Power Rangers like in the dark timeline, that is, because there's multiple timelines.
That's awesome.
There's multiple universes. I mean, that's where Draken came from.
Right.
So like,
well, I mean, it was cool because they kind of updated. They have like cell phones and stuff.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. But you know how like in the OG, like they have like a change of the guard and then like Rocky and then like come in. Sucks.
Yeah.
Bitch. But in the comic, they made it instead of they were like going to some like we're going to like some international peacekeeping conference or whatever. In the comic, they had them like Zordon sends them on like a secret mission to the moon, and like some of them die, and you're like, oh, this is like there's some stakes, you know, like it's like I'm Power Rangers for an adult now, but yeah. But I'm here for it. So okay, so getting back to you though, we tangent apart. What
did you know? Because you're a fan of Evil Dead, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay, go on. Like, finish your thing. I'm sorry. Bad host.
Whatever. No. So Evil Dead. That was how I kind of got into movies as well. Is I just started with Evil Dead 2 and a cult classic. Grew up with Evil Dead. Bruce Campbell. Even met the guy at one of the book signings.
Nice.
I didn't say much to him. I was a kid.
Okay.
But nonetheless, he's an amazing person. But I don't know if you know or not, but Sam Raimi, when he did the original Evil Dead, that was a college film. Like,
yes.
he was an indie filmmaker at the time.
Uh-huh.
And it blew up into what it was. So obviously Evil Dead 2 was a remake of Evil Dead 1 with a bigger budget, studio behind him. So like, if it weren't for Evil Dead and what happened with it, he would never be where he is. I mean, everybody starts in some sort of indie film world, and
100%.
Like, if you hear the stories when they went through the filmmaking process of the first Evil Dead, it was an absolute nightmare. Like, there was no AC in that horrible cramped cabin that they all stayed in. They were all crew. They were all cast. It was exactly what every single indie filmmaker goes through when they made that movie.
It's so cool, and well, that yellow vehicle he puts in all of his movies, which is awesome.
This part's really fun.
Okay.
This part a lot. So, I just finished doing The Void from Below. It's set in the 90s.
Right.
My character is the stoner.
Nice.
I'm driving Bruce Campbell's car.
Wait, in real life?
In the film.
In
the film, my character is driving the car that Bruce Campbell drives. That car.
Sick.
That's the car that I get to be.
Wow. Yeah. That's like a full circle moment for you, just like, from a fan to,
actually
do that.
Play a character that gets to play with that car.
That's badass. So for the longest time, I didn't realize that Evil Dead 2 was a remake of the first one.
Yeah.
Because I saw the second one first, and then I saw the first one, and then I watched the second one. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, but
yeah,
didn't this just happen? It's different, obviously. It's not the same friend group,
right?
But I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
Different things.
But then I did some research, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
They're
They're both awesome. Like, I liked the first one. I mean, I prefer the second one.
Oh, yeah. The second one was more campy than the first. The first one was just straight, like, we're making an indie horror film.
Yeah, and it works 100%. I was listening to, why am I blanking? Holy crap. Dude, you're going to lose your mind.
Why?
Director of Pulp Fiction. This is so embarrassing.
Tarantino.
Dude, wow, that's embarrassing. I was listening to an interview with him, and he was just geeking out about the first time he saw Evil Dead, because he's like, and the camera, when it's running through the woods, you're like, oh my God, like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And he's like, when you see the car drive up on the bridge and the bridge is taken out, he's like, when people shit on that, I'm like, no. You don't know how creative that is. You don't appreciate that. Like,
no, only filmmakers really appreciate that. In fact, what's really funny too is, again, looking back at Boy from Below, which I'm not sure when it'll come out, but from behind the scenes of things, when you look at film and you look at a scene and you see that, like, the camera is kind of moving and panning along with whatever's happening on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know or if anyone else does, but when you shoot that particular shot, it's on a reel system.
Yes, I've seen those.
Yeah, because you have to keep it level and you have to keep it stationary while it moves.
Yeah, I don't want to shake the camera.
Exactly, right? So, on Boy from Below, our DP, Cody, is an amazing DP, the director of photography, the man with the camera. We didn't have a track for all of our tracking shots. Amazing to watch this happen. He used one of the hoverboards.
Oh.
One of those, like, two-wheel hoverboards. So this man is walking around with this camera, and he's on a hoverboard, and he's just zooming around and, like, spinning around and doing all this stuff. I don't know how he kept balance and how he did it, but, like, this man...
What's this guy's name?
Is it Cody?
Shout out Cody.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. I've never seen that before. It was amazing. So I can't wait to see how these shots turn out. But yeah, anything that you see in this film that looks like we're doing a track shot, he's on a hoverboard.
Unreal.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, did you see the newest Evil Dead?
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
hated it.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah. But I'm also biased with all things Evil Dead, because
I am the consumer.
Yeah. Like, I'm the audience you're doing this for, but also like what was the actress's name? It was one of the Skarsgårds, the main woman. Yeah, she was phenomenal in it.
She did so good. I was thinking about that after I saw it. I'm like, how exhausting to be a demon. A Deadite technically, but like just like the crazy faces and like the contortion they have to do and all that. Like, what an exhausting role.
Did you watch the behind the scenes for that too?
No, I didn't.
There's a lot of it. You should watch it.
Oh, okay. I'd
It's
be down to
really
check
good.
it out.
But they even did one of the interviews with her when, I mean, she credited getting cast at doing the part. She's like, I don't know how to be this creepy person. I don't know how to portray this character. And she goes, I guess I just kind of lucked out having a really creepy smile with a big mouth. And, like, it really paid off.
Yeah,
So,
for
like,
sure.
Everything about her.
Because she's like a pretty woman. Like, she's an attractive lady.
Yeah.
But that, like, wide-eyed, creepy smile,
Yeah,
and just
it's
like,
ear-to-ear
yes,
smile.
yeah,
It's
like
just
Joker-esque.
something you see every day. Like, that was so inhuman. It was great.
yeah, it was great to watch, and I kind of liked how they did, like, the combo creature
Oh,
at the end, and they, like, just jammed all the humans into one.
It was creepy and unnatural.
Yeah.
It was something I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's a cool final boss sort of
No.
situation.
That's all it was. It was
Yeah.
quite awesome. But like the other thing was I can nitpick the film all I want, and that's fine. You know, I can only stretch my imagination to the realm of what you're wanting us to believe to be able to tell the story, and that's fine.
Uh-huh.
So like the biggest gripe that I have is like how he came about, like the kid who obviously summons the evil dead, right?
Sure.
He summons it through the records.
Yes.
Right? And he finds the records underneath the building in this thing. Like that whole from A to B, that kind of got away from me a little bit, but I let it slide because I get it. You got to tell the story somehow, and I'm not interested in like, you know, a 2-hour backstory of how they came across it. Like, let's just have it. Let's go.
Right.
I
I was actually the same way because when the kid went down there, I was like, that kid's not going to go down there. no one's going to go down there. If you're going to go down there, you're going to be like with your friends, and you're like 2 people are going down there. You're going to use the buddy system. Like, you know, like I did not buy that kid was just ballsy enough.
No.
But then the shit starts going down, and I'm like,
Yeah, like,
you know, you're
I'm
like,
along for the ride.
for sure.
But also, like, what are the odds that this kid's like an inspiring DJ, and the form of which we get it is a record?
Yeah.
Like, if it were anybody else, any other story, and they find these records, like if I were to find these,
yes, it's so
records,
character specific.
I don't have a turntable to watch. Like, I just put it on a shelf and be like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll sell it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very fair.
But you know, Bruce Campbell has a cameo appearance in that movie, right?
No, I missed it.
You don't see him, you hear him.
And
And this is what's so cool about the lore. If you follow any of it, I mean, I'm sure
I very much
you've watched Army of Darkness, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the storyline with Ash is that from Evil Dead 2, he says the wrong incantation, or she, the archaeologist's daughter of the guy who found the book, says the wrong incantation, and it summons the portal, which sucks up the Deadite, which then sucks Bruce Campbell into the portal and shoots him into the past of like 18th century, right?
Yes.
So now Bruce Campbell is stuck in the 18th century, whatever century it was.
Yeah.
That's the end of his story in the Evil Dead canon outside of the TV show.
Yes.
Okay.
Ash versus
So
Evil Dead, yeah.
exactly. So when the kid in Evil Dead Rise has the audio for the summoning, if you listen to what's being said, like transport your imagination to when it was being recorded. They're in this big room. There's like a priestess who's like saying everything. There's a group of people who are watching it, and you can hear people kind of talking amongst themselves, like, "Don't be doing this sort of deal." You'll hear somebody in the background scream, like, "Don't read from the book! Stop it! Stop!" And it's Bruce Campbell, present at the time of the recording, that they were summoning it again.
Oh my god.
So he comes full circle to Evil Dead Rise from when he was in the past of Army of Darkness.
That's incredible.
It's so cool.
Army of Darkness. So I don't like it as much as Evil Dead 2.
Naturally. I watched it again for Halloween last year. I do not like his character at all. He's different. He's different.
He's different from the previous movies.
Misogynistic asshole.
Oh yeah, he's kind of hard to stomach. Like you don't really root for him, and it's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Like you don't even know what's gonna happen next. Like it takes the weirdness from the Evil Dead 2 and just like cranks it up. There are like some of the effects I was very impressed with, like when they had the army of Deadites.
Yeah, even
like
the little ashes that were running around.
Yeah, very cool. Like spectacle wise. Yeah. Spectacle wise, I was like, this still is very cool.
Yeah.
But it's like story wise and character wise, you're just like
It's with that Evil Dead 2, you're fine.
Yeah. It's a cool concept though. Like I like when Evil Dead 2 ends and he's back in time.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is sick. I want to see what happens next. And then you see what happens next. You're like, oh,
It's almost like when a character is created somewhere in his timeline. Like, let's say Han Solo, for example. Right? You're watching Star Wars and you get Han Solo and you're like, he's this rebel who's got this huge past and he's just this amazing, awesome person. And it's just up to your imagination as to how he became what he is.
Yep.
And then Disney releases Solo, and they shatter all of your imaginations and tell you how he became what he is. And you're like, that was such a huge letdown. I liked the image that I created instead of what you told me.
Right. 100%.
So, like, yeah, I would love to see what happens to Ash when he's in the past. Let me imagine it. Because when you tell me, that's what we're left with.
Especially if it's like a prequel of this, where Solo was, where it's just like...
Yeah.
You know, bummer.
Let it just
bummer. Yeah, Disney Star Wars. I mean, it is just as bad, if not worse, than Marvel. I mean, it's just Disney, man. I just don't give a shit.
Disney being Disney.
Don't give a shit. I saw like the Acolyte trailer, and I was like,
I'm so far removed from all of it now that I have not even seen that.
It doesn't matter.
The last thing I saw in regards to that was the storyline, which was actually really good. I enjoyed it. Anyways,
the show.
Yeah, with Ewan McGregor.
Yes.
Yeah, that I actually enjoyed, but that was the last thing I saw.
What? I don't know what the last thing. I guess Mando season 3. There's
a third season.
Yeah,
I've only seen one.
It was okay. The first 2 are definitely way better. Can I spoil something for you? Okay. It's the most off-putting part. There's just a random cameo from Jack Black and Lizzo.
What?
And they're like major characters in one episode of season 3 of Mando.
What?
And it's so off-putting because Star Wars is not the cameo show. Like, I do not, like, Marvel can kind of get away with it where you're like, oh, like, that's so-and-so. Like,
yeah.
I do not go to Star Wars to be taken out, like with a wink and a nudge.
Yeah.
You know, I go to be, like, absorbed.
Yeah.
Bro, they're just Jack Black is just plain Jack Black. And he does a good job. Like, it's not his fault. Like, they brought him on and he just did what he was supposed to. But I was like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, they're just characters on this planet, and it threw me through a loop so much that I just like couldn't. The whole episode was a wash for me because every time I was like, that's just Jack Black and the singer Lizzo. Like, why is she in this?
That's disappointing.
Yeah, it was very disappointing.
I'm so glad I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I hate to burst your bubble, but I just like couldn't believe it. There's no like relevance to the plot of the season or the show. It's just like they're in it, and it's just them, and it's like very obviously them.
Joy.
Yeah, very strange. So something I wanted to ask you: dream project or dream role? Like, have you thought about that? Like, is there something you haven't done? Like, if you could create your ideal role right now, what would it be? And budget, location, none of that matters. Like, if you could dream as big as you wanted, and it could be like, I'm not saying it has to be like a big budget thing. I'm just saying if there was a role that you could play, have you thought about that?
I have thought about that. As an actor, those are the kinds of things that are on your mind. However, I feel like I'm falling further and further away from that. I know at one point in my career, a Marvel character has always been on my radar.
Sure.
I'd love to play a Marvel character. I really would. But at the state in which Marvel is in, it's further and further from I kind of want to do this, mostly because we know what the process it is and what it means and where the state of Marvel is at. But eventually, I would love to do some sort of a comic book type character, at least one of the characters that I love. I mean, if Marvel wants to reboot Iron Man,
I was just gonna say, dude, because I mean, obviously you cosplay, but the look is just already there. I mean, look at it. Look at it.
I mean, I would love to play Tony Stark. That would be fun. But to try and keep things realistic and at least more on a level playing field, some sort of fantasy would be really cool. Not exactly Lord of the Rings, but like that
sort of high fantasy like that.
Yeah, you know, like I want to be able to work on a high budget project where we have a set made, like the original Lord of the Rings, or like in New Zealand.
I have watched all the behind the scenes there. It's the best. There's no better behind the scenes.
I would love that. To be able to live in that sort of a world, like high fantasy. I mean, even in like Harry Potter. You know, like,
yeah.
I want that sort of immersement of the character for X amount of time.
That was going to be my follow-up. So it'd be like maybe like a series where it's like this is 5 years or more of my life where I'm living on these sets and doing the same sort of thing, kind of like a career-defining chunk of life.
Yeah. That's at least my end game. I know a lot of actors say, you know, like I want to be on a series regular on a show or something. Like I have no interest in television. I have no interest in like a streaming service or anything like that. Like my interest as an actor is to portray a character, to tell a story. And quite honestly, when I watch these TV shows, it's not a story. It's you're along for the ride while these characters are just going through these misadventures, which is fine in itself. I got nothing against it. But as an actor and an artist, I want to be able to be a character in a story.
Like a 3-act story with a character arc.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to have a closure to it. Like, there doesn't have to be a button at the end of it. But, like, I want to tell a story, and that's it. Because that's kind of how I see life in general. Like, every single person that you meet, when you don't even know or when you do know, they have a backstory, they have something going on in their life, and they have dreams and ambitions. Like every single person does. You do.
Oh yeah.
Do. Everybody.
Here we are.
And, right. And how do we pass the time when we get together? We tell stories. We play games. We fill the void with experiences by sharing them with others.
Yeah, read books. I mean, I just read Lord of the Rings again.
See? I mean, it's like life is a story, and that's what I want to tell. And I want to do it in a high fantasy fashion because those, like, the set designs, the costumes, the language, just the being able to remove yourself from this reality and into one that doesn't exist currently, but one that is a fantasy, just sounds so appealing for a minute.
Dude, when you said the language, one of the best parts of Lord of the Rings is how they talk.
Yeah.
The nobility behind it.
Yeah.
Like, I wish we still talked like that today. I love slang. I love slang. I love talking goofy and saying goofy things. But the articulate nobility in those Lord of the Rings movies, where characters say what they mean and there's like an honesty behind it and there's like a legacy of family and there's what's great about Lord of the Rings and just fantasy in general, the play of good and evil, when you have characters that believe in good, so they talk, it's not cliche because they believe it, if that makes sense, when they're saying these things that convey, like they speak about darkness, you know, the ever-encroaching darkness. Like, no one says that nowadays, but I think it's such a cynical world nowadays where even though there is real evil, you know, people do evil things, we don't approach it that way. But we don't say, oh, the darkness is ever encroaching, you know. But I almost wish we did, because then, I don't know, there's just something like comforting about standing that kind of stance against darkness and evil, where it's like, you know,
there's emotion behind
it. There's emotion behind it. And, you know, what Game of Thrones did, which is awesome, is that they're kind of like, well, these are real people, and it's not so much good and evil, it's more like political alliances. And that was great, awesome. Yeah. That was great too, and it was awesome. But I think what's cool about like something that's a little bit more fantastical is you can play with the themes of good and evil and still be authentic to having real life characters who struggle with that balance of good and evil. I mean, Luke Skywalker. It's just like just a great example. And so I'm stoked. I hope that's something that you get to do. I would love to be an extra in a high fantasy. So, if your dream comes true, now it is my dream in your hands to be an extra.
That's fair. I'll keep you in mind, actually, because one of the projects that is on the horizon for my production company as well as Final Go Films, Spooky Madness, one of the projects that we're working out together is a series, which also plays into the high fantasy as well, assuming that we can get what we need to be able to put it together. It's still in early development stages, granted, but the story that we're telling, I think it's called the Grim Adventures, or I'm butchering it. I'm sorry.
Doesn't even know what he's working on.
I don't even know. Our two characters, it's like a fairy tale meets Stranger Things meets Dungeons and Dragons, fantasy, Lord of the Rings kind of esque story that we're developing right now. So like it will come up eventually. Which I'm excited for eventually.
Dude, throw me in some chainmail.
Actually, what's also really funny is it's been put on hold for a while now, mostly because of COVID, and I don't know where the project is currently sitting, but I'm supposed to be working on a film that's coming up called Side Quest.
Oh, nice.
And it plays off of role models.
Yeah, like with Paul Rudd.
Yeah, and the whole LARPing thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
So this film that I'm supposed to be working on that's currently on hiatus, that went on hiatus because of COVID, and then when everything started getting the green light again, one of the big name actors who's on this project was already working on other projects, so time had to be allocated, and right now it's just kind of sitting. But I still have the script, and I'm still a pretty big character in it. But the premise is I'm a teacher in this high school. I'm like the detention teacher or whatever, and these kids are in my detention. And my character is in the LARPing thing. I play Paladin. Right?
Okay.
And all of a sudden I find out on this day that everybody's in detention that our other people have like not been able to show up, and like there's this really big LARPing event that's happening like this weekend, and my team can't be there, and it's like so detrimental, and I'm breaking my like teacher character and I'm moving towards my hero character, and I'm like, oh, everything's kind of like falling apart. What do I do? And I say, I'll remove you from detention going forward if you kids come help me in this LARPing event. And they're all like, we don't want to do this. But they follow through with the deal, right? So we go to the LARPing event, and they're all reluctantly doing it, and I'm like in character as a Paladin LARPer. And all of a sudden, something happens to where like this portal opens up, and these kids and myself fall through it, and we get transported into the real world fantasy, like Lord of the Rings, where it's all real. And I'm in disbelief. I get captured. Things go wrong with me, and the kids have to like overcome it and then rescue me and get us back to normal time. And then we get back to normal time. We've all learned lessons. We finish up a LARPing event, and everything is good. Great. And that's the story. But like, nonetheless, I get to do that hopefully here soon. But not like in the fashion that I really want to. More so on the meta side of the world.
Nice.
Yeah, nonetheless, it's on the horizon.
I love it. Yeah. That's excellent. What else? Do you have anything else coming on? I mean, I know you've got a lot on your plate.
I got a few projects. The next one that's coming up is in June. It's called Hollow Lake. It's an LGBT slasher where I'm the lead.
So what does that mean? Because you
LGBT?
I know what that means, but like an LGBT slasher.
Yeah, it means it's just a normal slasher film, but the genre and the focus of the story is LGBT.
So like the characters themselves? Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So and then they just get murdered in normal slasher style?
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
It's just instead of it being like Scream.
Sure.
It's a focus more on like the LGBT side of things. So
gotcha.
It's like I'm the lead of this one, and it's like me and my husband go to this cabin.
Gotcha.
We're relaxing for the weekend. There's a slasher, and things go wrong.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So that's my next big project. And then like literally a week break, and then I jump on to the next project, which is called Death Woods, which is happening in Tennessee, Kentucky, one of the two.
You're the only 10 I see. I had to. Let me go on.
Unfollow. And that's going to be another camper slasher. This one is kind of a similar trope. A group of friends. We all kind of get together for the weekend. We go camping, and then there's a slasher present. Things go wrong. That's the deal. That's the next big one. And then I get a couple of month break, and then I'm back on another big horror film. This one is called Never Return. It's actually got quite a few big names in it. The girls from the Terrifier movies are going to be in this one. There's a couple other big characters, but it's on the back of my radar right now because I've got these other big ones that I kind of have to focus on. So then I'll kind of put more focus on this one, and that one is in September. So I've got 3 big horror films that I'll be working on here throughout the year.
Nice. Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then, of course, if something else comes up in between, we'll play that game.
Dude, I think we've got enough.
No.
No. Oh,
that's the thing. I'm an independent contractor.
Sure. So you're always hungry
for more.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fill the void with projects.
Gotcha. Well, good.
As much as I can.
Well, that's awesome, man. Is there anything else you want to promote?
I mean, there's a whole list of things that need to be promoted.
Plug it.
First and foremost, like I had mentioned earlier, Shredded has just been released publicly as of yesterday, the day that was at 4/27.
Yes, 4/27. So this will come out next Sunday.
So
yes.
as of 4/27, it is now out publicly. As to where it can be seen, that is still yet to be determined. So keep an eye out for when that comes. I'll usually post about it.
Where can people follow you?
You can follow me mostly on Instagram. That's kind of where I do the majority of my interacting. Real Anthony Dain. But I'm also on Facebook. Just kind of find me that way. I don't do a whole lot of stuff on Facebook. It's mostly just like self-promoting for the deal. But like Instagram is where I do the majority of my work. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and continue. So Shred.
Oh, Lordy.
Just do it all.
Shredded is out. I just had a recent film come out. It's found on Lifetime.
Nice.
It's on streaming service as well as the channel itself. It's called like Fate Comes Knocking.
Fate.
I'm probably saying the wrong title. I'll have to put it in the description, but nonetheless, I'm really bad at that. Just look at my IMDb page and find out where all of those movies are.
It's extensive.
Yeah, my brain gets kind of clogged with who's coming up where, but Boy From Below is a pretty big one that's actually coming out hopefully by the end of the year, so keep an eye out for that one as well. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's exciting. That's a lot of projects. I'm excited for Boy From Below.
Dude, it's going to be so good.
I think that's going to be legit.
I'm very excited for Boy From Below. I cannot wait.
Good, man. Do you think you guys would do like a premiere or something?
Yeah, we're absolutely going to do a premiere. In fact, there's also talks of convention releases for it.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be present at most of those conventions, but of course the main leads will be following around for those. Yeah, that one's going to be pretty big, like very, very big.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, do you want to wrap it up here?
Sure. Awesome.
Tony, thank you so much for doing this, man. I know how busy you are, and as I'm trying to grow this thing, I appreciate you taking the time, and this is only episode 4, so I know I just really appreciate the time, man. Anything for you, man. Later, bitches.